I'm Mike Laidlaw, lead designer for Dragon Age Origins. And with me is Catherine Lundgren, and welcome to Warden's Training. Now, with Dragon Age Origins, of course, the key to success is actually balancing your party, getting together your allies, getting together your equipment, getting everything really set up so that your group complements one another. If you get them all working together, you're able to dominate in combat. And towards that end, what we're going to do today is show you how to kind of optimize a warrior, a wizard, or a rogue. So let's take a look at warrior and the ways that you can build them. The nice thing about warriors is that they're very focused in terms of what they do. They're there to basically either deal massive amounts of damage or take massive amounts of damage, and in an ideal case, both. The key statistics you'll want to be focusing on with warrior are, of course, strength to dish out the damage, dexterity to maybe miss a few of those hits and make sure you're accurate, and of course, high constitution, because it translates directly into how healthy your character is, meaning that they can take more punishment. With the warrior's talents, it's key to make sure that you really decide what kind of warrior you want to play. Now, there's a number of different builds. We're going to focus on two for you today. With the classic sword and shield build, you're a straight-up defender. You're able to hold as many enemies' attention as you can, and we're going to take a look at some key talents that will help you do that. Many of them lie in the warrior tree. First off, you want to make sure that you're running Threaten. It's a sustained ability that will actually keep the attention focused on you. And whenever anything breaks away and starts pounding on the weaker members of the party, you're going to want to make sure that you have Taunt. It's an activated ability, pulls everyone right back to you. Some other key defenses, of course, lie in the sword and shield tree. You'll be starting with Shield Bash. That's a nice basic offensive ability. But some key ones actually lie in that middle channel where you'll find Shield Defense and Shield Wall, and two talents that actually benefit them, making them stronger and more effective. Balancing between these two talents can actually let you adjust to very accurate enemies or enemies who do lots of damage. And finally, at the bottom of that third tree there, you'll actually see Shield Mastery. With it, every sword and shield ability you have gains some small bonus. It is one of the most powerful abilities, and certainly a good reason for you to build your dexterity up to 26, which is one of those things you're going to have to keep an eye out for when you're building this type of character. Of course, a lot of times when you're playing a warrior, you just want to be on the front lines kicking as much ass as you possibly can, and that's fair. What we want to build for you is a warrior that's exceptional at two-handed weapons. One of the most key abilities for you is going to be Death Blow. Two-handed swords are heavy, they take a lot of your stamina, but with Death Blow, every kill you get is going to restore a little bit of it. That means you can keep swinging a lot harder, a lot longer. On top of that, you'll want to make sure you focus on the two-handed weapon abilities. With them, you'll actually be able to make yourself completely immune to knockdown and stun effects by taking Indomitable. That's one of your key abilities as this type of character, meaning you can keep dishing out the damage. On top of that, you want to make sure you're looking at some of the other heavier attacks, and two-handed sweep is one of the key ones there, allowing you to dish out damage in an AoE, kind of a cone in front of you, sending guys flying. Warriors are made and broken by their armor and equipment, and every warrior is going to want to get their hands on the Juggernaut suit of armor. It not only provides excellent physical resistance, but also allows you to shrug off elemental damage, meaning many spells are going to do less damage to you. To get it, you'll want to come here to the Brecilian forest and keep an eye out for these tombstones. To begin the quest that gets you the Juggernaut armor, you're going to want to come here to this north-central part of the East Brecilian forest, and then head out and look for the other tombstones that are scattered around the two different areas. Each piece of the Juggernaut armor is guarded by a group of undead, led by a Revenant. This means you're in for one hell of a fight. You'll want to make sure that your party's spread out and cleared away. Only the toughest of your characters should be up close and fighting hand-to-hand with the Revenant. Keep an eye on your equipment as well, and the way you've enchanted your weapons and the kind of spells that you're using. Bringing cold damage to this fight won't do you any favors. All of the undead that are present are going to be shrugging off that damage as if it were nothing. With the Revenant dead, you'll have your first piece of the Juggernaut armor, but don't get complacent. You've got two more fights of roughly this difficulty ahead of you before you can collect the whole set, except for the chest piece, and we'll get to that next. The final piece of the Juggernaut armor is located in a series of elven ruins at the center of the forest. Without spoiling it too much, you'll need to come here and perform a ritual in order to acquire access to it. Keep an eye out for a tablet that's in a nearby room near a pool of water. If you find that, it will give you step-by-step instructions on the ritual you have to perform. Once you've performed the ritual, you gain access to a burial chamber, which is guarded by a powerful spirit, and in there, you'll be able to find the final and most central piece of the Juggernaut armor. So let's take a look at Rogue with their statistic distribution. There are really two types of rogues, more of a finesse fighter and more of a powerhouse. With the finesse fighter, you'll want to focus on dexterity and cunning. You'll be using lighter weapons, and that'll really benefit you in the long run. With more of a powerhouse character, you'll want to actually focus on dexterity and strength, again allowing you to wear heavier armors and wield the larger weapons. There are two primary builds for rogues, the Ranger and the Striker. The Ranger will be standing at the back of the combat line, dishing out death from a distance, while the Striker will often be circling around behind foes and hitting as hard as they possibly can with backstabs. Let's take a look at the Archer. The Archer is a perfect character for a rogue that's focused on cunning, because it allows you to actually take the talent Lethality right there in the rogue tree to actually replace cunning in all the calculations that would normally use strength to determine damage. As a result, you can build a character that's much more focused on wits and making sure they get criticals than a character who's big and brawny. Adding to that, you can also use that cunning to your advantage to pick up the deft hands line. This allows you to deal with both traps and locks, meaning you'll be opening more chests, pulling more treasure, getting more money for your group. Of course, we want to make sure we're down in the archery tree. There, one of the key things you want to build towards is Master Archer. It gives a buff to every one of your archery abilities and causes you to actually draw faster when you're firing in the main line. As well, an early pickup, one thing you want to make sure you have is, of course, melee archer. So if something hits you up close, you're not going to be interrupted. When we look at the highlight items, all the rest have good situational purposes, but Arrow of Slaying is by far the best mage killer out there. The Archer is going to be able to deal with them, often in a single shot. Now let's take a look at the Striker, a different type of rogue that really excels up close and preferably behind their opponent. A Striker typically is going to want to focus on elements that make their melee attacks better. You'll want to pick up coup de grace in the rogue tree. It means if the enemy is stunned for any reason, whether it's something you did or possibly an ice spell from a mage, you're going to start backstabbing, which means you can do maximum damage. As well, the dual weapon talent tree is going to work out very well for you, and all the way up at dual weapon master, you're actually able to wield two large weapons, meaning you can have double long swords. Other elements to keep track of are riposte, which allows you to stun your foe, which again opens up an opportunity for coup de grace, or the dual weapon striking, which you should actually be monitoring. Whenever it's active and they're up in your face, you can actually hit with both weapons at once. The moment they turn their back, turn it off and you'll start backstabbing again. With rogues, I'm going to detail for you one of the most obscure quests in the game, which can result in some amazing rogue armor. First off, when you find yourself in a dragon caverns, I won't spoil for you where it is, but I'll tell you might be searching for an ancient relic. You will get a good chance to face a number of drakes. Make sure you loot their bodies. In total, you're looking for 6 drake scales. Catherine's gathered all of the drake scales, and she's come to Denram, to the Market District. This is where you can find Wade's Emporium, Wade being one of the best armor smiths in all of Ferelden. Wade's more than happy to turn your drake scales into leather armor for your party. He'll actually work on 2 different suits, and when you come, make sure you bring a lot of money. If you can afford to pay Wade extra, he'll take extra time and learn more about it, and this can be a long-term investment. Once you've got dragon scales, come back to Wade, and the more practice he's had working with drake scales, the more effective he'll be when he builds plate armor out of those dragon scales for your party, and the better the armor will result. Not wanting to leave our ranged rogue hanging, we've come back to the Brecilian forest. Here you'll face one of the tougher battles in the heart of the ruins, where you'll find in this room a dragon waiting to deal with you. Once you've dealt with the beast, you'll find its hoard tucked in the back of the room. Make sure you loot it. It's full of money, gems, and the most powerful bow in the game. It's right here. Falandin's Reach comes not only with extra damage, but rapid aim, increasing the speed at which you're able to shoot. And finally, we have the Mage. Luckily, they're one of the simplest characters to build statistically. You've got 2 stats you want to focus on. Magic is going to give your spells more punch, make everything you do more effective, including your staff. And with willpower, you're going to have a larger reserve of mana. That means you're going to be able to cast more spells in every fight. When we think about the mage and the way we build them, there are certainly some classic archetypes. The healer, the fireball tossing elementalist, and those are fairly self-explanatory. What I want to talk about with you today is a couple of elements you may be missing. So let's go down to some of the deeper trees here. You'll see the first talent here is Walking Bomb, which is certainly fun in and of itself, but further down the tree you'll find Death Siphon that can actually pull mana right out of every dead body in your immediate area. This can be sustained, meaning that it'll keep running all the way through combat and you almost almost never run out of mana. On top of that, at the end of this tree, you'll find Animate Dead, which allows you to cast on a creature that's already dead and restore it to life. The thing that you have to be aware of is that the type of creature you cast it on will result in what type of skeleton will emerge. If you cast it on a mage, there's a chance you're going to get a fireball-tossing healer at your side as backup. That can be amazing. One other line that constantly gets overlooked is the hexes. Affliction Hex is a useful start. Certainly, it makes the enemy weaker to all of your elemental damage. But more importantly, when we get to Misdirection Hex, it causes essentially every hit that your enemy would normally do to be a miss, and every crit to be a regular hit. Even better, Death Hex causes everything that you hit them with to be a critical. This is amazing, especially when paired with a rogue who's got benefits to their critical damage. In addition, there's one other build I want to tell you about, and it focuses on a specialization called the Arcane Warrior. You pretty much have to build your mage for this from the ground up, meaning you'll likely do it on the second time you play through the game. But with Arcane Warrior unlocked, you're able to equip armors all the way up to plate mail and wield the heaviest weapons. An Arcane Warrior can actually dish out damage on par and sometimes in excess of what a warrior can do. To build an Arcane Warrior most effectively, you'll want to make sure you're focusing on sustained abilities, because with all that extra weight, you won't be able to cast a lot of spells. Still, as a class, it is probably the most flexible, being able to move almost instantly from a fireball tossing caster all the way to a tank who can wade straight into the thick of battle. So we've got our mage built, we've got a good selection of spells. Equipment is the next logical step, and get ready to go shopping. Some of the best items you can find for the mage are actually located in both the Mage Quartermaster in the Circle Tower and here in the Wonders of Thedas. You can find it in Denerim's Market District, tucked away in a corner. And the proprietor here has some of the best items for your mage to equip. Some of the key items we can actually take a look at here. Winter's Breath, for instance, is possibly one of the best staves in the game, especially for a mage who's been focusing on cold. With this, you'll notice both the cold resistance, the spell power bonus, and the fact that you're doing extra damage with all of your cold spells. So you'll find that the armor that he carries as well includes the Reaper's Vestments, one of the best suits of armor for a mage who occasionally falls under attack. You get a bonus to dodge, a bonus to your constitution, and a resistance to fire, meaning that in almost all situations, you're taking less damage coming in. One final item to keep an eye out for is the Ring of Ages, straight up resistance to almost every element in the game. As a result, you're taking less damage when you're fighting enemy mages. Mix all three of these and you're a potent offensive and defensive caster, meaning you're going to dominate the battlefield. If you find your purse is a bit light, you'll want to head to the Circle Tower. With it being a magically themed dungeon, you'll find a lot of loot in here that will actually help boost your mage's damage and their defenses. One particular piece you'll want to keep an eye out for is in the Templar's Quarters, the third floor of the Mage Tower. In here, you'll find a charred body tucked away in this part of the map that actually holds one of the more powerful pieces of headgear. It is the Libertarian's Cowl. And with it, you have a bonus to defense, which is extremely good when you're dealing with incoming enemy fire. But also, you'll see a mana regeneration, which keeps you in the fight that much longer. We've just scratched the surface of what's possible when you're building your characters in terms of talents, equipment, and their attributes. But really, what's most important to your success in Dragon Age is that you build a party with abilities that complement the way you want to play. Make sure that you've got a natural rhythm and a natural feel for your playstyle. And once you have that down, you'll find you're dominating the battlefield. So that concludes your Warden's training. I'm Mike Laidlaw, this is Catherine Lundgren, and on behalf of the entire Dragon Age team, thanks for watching.